Commissioner Henning.
Here.
Commissioner Jarvis. Here. Commissioner Miller.
Here. And we'll ask Commissioner Snyder to say a prayer and I'll lead us.
Heavenly Father, thanks for gathering us together here this morning as a free people to discuss the business of the county. And as we do, Lord, we are mindful of all the blessings we have and all the challenges that we have. As a great responsibility that we have to honor and uphold the freedom that we have to be able to assemble and conduct our business. Lord, we're mindful of all of our troops, even currently, who are fighting for our interests throughout the globe. Lord, please protect them and bring them home safely soon to us. And Lord, we are mindful of all of the people here at home who put themselves in harm's way for us, all of our public safety personnel, all of our medical personnel, all of our basic services personnel who provide us all of the services and means to be able to care for ourselves. And within our community, Lord, there are those that need assistance with care. Please help us to help them in any way you can, Lord, and we ask for special blessing upon all of those in our community who need help. Lord, also please, during these tumultuous times throughout the world, lay a hand of calm upon all of us, all of your humanity, and help us to see the long picture of peace and justice more clearly. As we prepare to conduct the business of the county now today, Lord, please give us the wisdom to make the best decisions that we can. And we ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess I'm going to ask at this point, are there any other agenda items we're not aware of?
I would like just to make one announcement. I think it's always good to spread the good news when we do have it. And this morning at 3:25 a.m., our Commissioner Zender became a grandpa again. And so, and one of our very own, Rachel Horton, she's happy, healthy, mom's doing fine, and baby's doing fine.
Yay.
No other agenda topics. No. We have motions for that? Motion?
You don't have to, you can have a consensus,
Okay.
but that's
Well,
up
I'll
to
do
you.
that.
Do we have this on there?
We do.
Okay, I can see it.
9 o'clock.
What is it?
Okay, seeing no others, we'll by consensus agree to continue. And we have consideration of the draft minutes for January 20th.
Support.
And second, is there any correction? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That's passed. Okay, there are, I know there's a folder circulating, could have travel requests, grant applications, budget amendments. If you see any, and you want to bring them up, possibly in this meeting or afterwards for that administrative meeting. Okay, department head updates. Departments or department heads, so, or elected officials. Our county clerk, for instance.
County clerk. Clerk's done to recording. I just have gotten an email from, my board of canvas members, widow, Harry Akers has passed away, and they have now scheduled the memorial service. And I was sharing it with the other canvas members, and I didn't read the email with me. Very sure it's the 19th at 11 at Hunter Street Church, but I would suggest that I will send you all the email so that you have that date and time to reference, and in case anybody or various districts are interested to know about that. They just want to make sure that they've scheduled here this memorial service. And that's what I wanted to say. Anybody have any questions of me about anything?
I think we may talk to you a little later.
I'll be here. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, other departments.
Morning, David Stevens, Thunder Regional Community Corrections Coordinator. Just wanted to give you a quick update. Had a meeting with the powers that be in Lansing yesterday. They're asking for the same amount of funding as a whole, not just us, but the whole state. So hopefully that means we'll get the same amount, if not a little bit more. They still are pushing pretrial services. We don't have that here in Lapeer. Could write a grant for it. Been working with Maureen because that's where it would start. Basically, it would be conditions of bond, supervision, stuff like that. But we get funded as we did last year, and things go along. Any questions?
We probably need to discuss that more depth.
The pretrial services, it's a big thing to do. It means hiring somebody, it's more in depth than just setting bond. They have to do investigations, reports to the manager, the judge. So, but it's
Funding.
the funding, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the committee would have to do a lot of those discussions and a lot of that groundwork, and then I would bring that or they can bring that back to the board.
Yeah, it's not FY 2023, FY 2024, because it would be bringing on a new person to the county position, so. it'd be a different. Thank you.
Other department heads.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As I'm sure you're aware, yesterday the state issued guidance based on current conditions that they're expiring the public health advisory on masking in indoor public settings. It marks the beginnings of transitioning to surge response. What it does not mean is that they are advising that we not wear masks, as they are still recommended in certain settings and situations. Nor does it mean that COVID-19 has gone away. I think we all know that. It's probably here to stay. It does not mean that our staff are done with their work, because case investigation for outbreaks is something that we do for many diseases, including influenza, meningitis, measles, etc., and still for COVID. Our staff is still doing case follow-up, especially with facility outbreaks, to help mitigate spread and to ensure that they are aware of all the treatments that are available. What it does mean is that current conditions are that the numbers are going down at this time. We have much better tools at this point in time as well. We have better masks available to everyone than we did a year ago. We have vaccines readily available, which continue to help reduce the number of severe cases, long-term effects, and death. And by the way, within 2 hours of sending out the update last week, they pulled the EUA on the pediatric because they're doing a little more research. We will not be getting the pediatric week of President's Day, as I did report to you last time. Tests are much more readily available, and information on how we can individually take responsibility for not spreading illness, much more readily available. We also have better treatment methods. So we're currently considered to be in what they're calling a post-surge recovery phase. Looking back at data and graphs from the past 2 years, you can see definite trends in spikes of when we had many more cases of the disease and when we were very low. So we will monitor the situation locally, provide information to the public as we see surges on the horizon, etc., to help residents be able to prepare when needed. In future weeks, I'd like to periodically highlight different programs and services in the health department and what I'd like to term public health. It's more than just COVID. So, and that's important today.
Any questions? I did want to ask, any change in flu?
You know, not so much. I've been watching the weekly flu reports, and those are available, by the way, on the state website called MIFF, Michigan Influenza, FF, whatever that, I can't remember now off the top of my head what those stand for. But basically, it's a report that they put out and we're still in the low amounts. I do watch on the hospital reports, and there's been like last week, I believe I saw one person hospitalized for flu, but not in ICU. And it had been several weeks since we saw a case. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't any out there. It just means that they haven't been severe enough, excuse me, to show up in the hospital report, so.
And I guess we've concentrated so much on COVID. Are any other significant health issues surfaced?
We have been dealing with the usual, a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. We have had a meningitis case. We actually have an encephalitis case. There's some Legionnaires out there. Trying to remember just looking at the reports, we had some salmonella. So, bits and pieces of that. We have a TB case we're following, and we've had some animal bites. So, and I'm sure I've missed a few things, but all of those things that we follow on a regular basis, on top of it.
There's little activity, nothing highly unusual.
No. If there was, I usually try to bring that to your attention so you're aware of what's going on in the county, but,
The vaccines or the masks are, they said as immediately, the masks are no more.
I'm sorry.
The mask mandate is no longer immediately, according to Woodford yesterday, correct?
There hasn't been a mask mandate for a long time,
She said that.
since like June of last year. It's just been an advisory.
Right, but they've been pushing that. But then as far as the vaccine, you said for children.
And we still are encouraging masks in certain situations because they are harmful.
I got that. So the children, you said that vaccine is stopped right now. At the moment, is that what you just said?
They had requested an EUA, but they are doing a little more research on whether, before they issue it, they are doing a little more research on a third dose before they then actually issue that.
So my question's on the mandates, or on the vaccines and stuff. Why are we still kind of pushing that? Because it was made for emergency authorization. It's not FDA approved yet. People don't understand that part of what the difference is.
The Moderna and the Pfizer for adults is completely FDA approved. And we're moving within that direction, and because it's been shown to make a difference, that's why we're moving in that direction. We continue to give nasal shots, we continue to give tetanus and diphtheria, we continue to and give polio, and there's another one that we will be continuing as well as influenza.
Okay, so they have their package inserts show the side effects and everything now.
I'm sorry?
So the package inserts now are available to people so they can show the side effects. Last time, the package inserts now come with that product so they can see their side effects.
For as long as I can remember, we have been required to give that information on all shots. And I've been in public health since '85. We've always been required to give that information, and we have given that information to everybody.
The drugstores and stuff did not have those package inserts.
I'm sorry?
The drugstores did not have those on the vaccines. They have not. I don't know if they do now. I'm gonna find that out, but
I
they have not.
can't speak for the drugstores. I can just tell you what the health department
So
is
they had
doing
to ask for that, or
and
you
what
provide?
they are supposed to be doing. That's what I can tell you.
Did they have to ask you that, or did you provide that information upon the time they got the vaccine?
We provide that information to clients before they even get the vaccination.
They all knew
We
it.
give
They all
it to
knew
them
it.
when we're doing the street training. Okay?
Any others? Thank you, Ed. Okay, other departments? Mr. Evans?
Good morning, Commissioners. Not so much a reminder for you, but I guess a reminder to the general public that the CMH board is seeking applications for membership. The commission annually makes CMH appointments in the month of March. Terms start April 1st and run through March 31st. They're 3-year terms. So they appoint 4 individuals a year. There are specific requirements within the mental health code in terms of board composition. A certain number have to represent consumers of our services or secondary consumers of our services. Those are the primary requirements, and then there are requirements or restrictions on like how many government officials can serve, how many county commissioners can serve. But in general, anyone in the public who has an interest in mental health should consider themselves a potential candidate for membership on our board and make application to the commission to be appointed. It's more of a reminder for everyone else than the commission. So, thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. Happy New Year to you. It's been a while. Just real quick, just got some numbers for you, and this is through December 31st of 2021. Office information, we did almost 5,600 phone calls, which we average about 20 to 26 phone calls a day. And this is based on a 250 work day for the year. Office visits, we did 1,513. Walk-ins, when we talk about walk-ins, people that just come in off the street without an appointment, was 440, which is about 2 per day that we get to come in. And our transportation program is, as you know, is a huge part of our department. Last year, we transported 558 vets, miles driven, just over 53,000 miles, which averages about 250 miles a day we're driving. That's back and forth to their appointments in Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint, and Pontiac. The bigger one that we are keeping a track of now are volunteer hours for our drivers. We have 15 volunteer drivers now, to include myself and my assistant, which is Joanne. That amounted to just a little bit over 2,200 volunteer hours for last year. Okay. And the one that I always keep for last, which is the big one that is very significant to us, is we brought in 165 brand new vets last year, but that was the office, which averages out to about three brand new vets per week. So we're doing good. So any questions?
Sometimes you provide a dollar figure.
We're still trying to figure that out, right? We don't know what to base that on, because it's really, that's what I've seen that we can base it on, you know. But we'll look into it. I mean, that's a lot of volunteer hours. Some of them, our volunteers are there 5 days a week, some are 2, you know.
I was thinking total money brought into the county by the.
Oh, you're talking about the GDX index? Yeah, that will come out in March, April timeframe. Last year, I think we, and don't quote me, I don't know right off the top of my head. I know we're on a plus from the year before, almost $4.5 million. So.
It's really tell that I haven't seen any of the military guys that have come in because they were let go because of the mandate. Or you talking, about that?
I mean, we as office since May of 2020. You know, I mean, they'll come in and they with masks, mostly, that's probably 95% of them come in with masks. You know, they feel comfortable, and we always ask them, comfortable, where, you know.
My question was how many of those got let go from the military because they did not?
Oh, no, we have not seen any of that yet.
I think it's still really.
I hope we don't.
I know.
I really hope we don't.
Me too.
And, you know, my son deals with it every day. He's a captain with the 82nd Airborne Army Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and he's a medical officer, and he deals with it every day. I got friends that are in that situation right now, just waiting to see what happens. So, but I myself, and I'm very prejudiced, we're doing good things. So it's a good thing to have that.
165 unique. That's incredible.
I will have.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I will have photos for you on my 3rd-year anniversary in September, the total. And I think I stated this before, my goal is 1,000. And I know we're probably close to or over 700 right now since I've taken on. So, yeah. And it's not just me, it's my office, it's my department.
So maybe give us off the top of your head the total number of veterans served.
I can get numbers for you. Yeah, I mean, Joanne won't be able to go back from the date that I started. again, we'll have those numbers for you in September when I, my third year anniversary.
Because those are just new ones. There are a lot that you're facing.
No, definitely, yeah, most definitely.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
We'll see you a little later.
Okay.
Any other departments?
Good morning. Stephen Gator, I'm the Chief Investigator for the Medical Examiner's Office. I just wanted to introduce myself to the board and give you a face for the name. We are on the agenda for the March 3rd meeting where we will give some updates and introduce you to our chief. So I just want to make myself available here to the meetings, and if anyone has any questions, concerns.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any others? Seeing that, now it's time for public. Any public would like to come forward, again, give you the invitation to introduce yourself and then make your comments.
Alan.
We do have 3 minute
Alan,
time break.
I know I'm a long one.
No, not just you.
Alan Lapeer Township.
You're better.
Homeland Security, last week came out with a terrorist bulletin for the United States of America. And those that speak out against the previous election of the president are on that list, should be on that list, and are considered by our United States government and Homeland Security as being aids to terrorists. Your stolen election comment is aiding terrorists. Okay, that from our Homeland Security. Wow. Last week I talked about a gentleman who is a known terrorist that is right down the road from us. Okay, now I'm a terrorist because I have spoken out against the previous election, and I feel that there should be some changes to our election process, even here in our county. We feel that the election was as secure as it could be here in the county, and everybody seems to be really happy about it. But more and more evidence is coming up about these machines across the United States. I'm glad to see that that's on the agenda today. I fully support the county in moving that direction. My wife and I both have volunteered to help with the elections in the future. So I don't think that if we do something to better secure our election process, I do think that there will be enough volunteers step up to count ballots if that's where we go. Because that's what this proposal is asking. Also, we're going to be talking about the senior millage. As I told you guys last week, my first encounter with being on the senior committee for the county, we didn't have enough for a quorum. We didn't see any of the numbers that is being posted today at that meeting. So we couldn't discuss it because those numbers weren't available at the time. So just to let you know, the committee hasn't seen any of it. And I'm not sure how all this works, but I think that it should come from the committee to you all. And I think that step sort of is getting maybe bypassed. I don't know. I'm new at this, guys. So I just wanted to air that to everyone. So I'm a little disappointed. I thought that that should come back to our committee. We should have been able to discuss it and pass that along to you all. But that's fine, however you guys handle it. If I'm ever wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. And explain to me why I'm wrong. But I do have certain opinions and attitudes about how things should be. And, I stand on my right to air that. Thank you.
Other members of the general public.
That's what he just said, right? He didn't see the village on it.
Carol Wynn, Marathon Township. First of all, I want to thank you for adding the secure our elections petition to your agenda today for discussion. Discussion is always a good thing. I don't know if you know, but there is a documentary that's coming out called 2000 Mules. I hope y'all get to see it. Pretty interesting stuff about these drop boxes. I think it's going to open a lot of eyes, and eyes that remain shut. Oh wow, you missed out. Yesterday I posted on Facebook a group that is just trying to do good things for our community, and I posted about the discussion today on the secure our elections. Many people had signed that, and there were 2 comments on it, and one of them was from someone in Burlington Township, and it was about the drop boxes. And as y'all know, I've said it before, Marathon Township put our drop box up. First of all, you know what the petition says, those drop boxes need to go. Our drop box was immediately damaged. They taped her up with some duct tape and made her look real nice, left her there. She needs to go. I hate to say she, but you know. Anyway, so this person from Burlington says, the Burlington absentee ballot box has been sitting next to a porch. It's not handicap accessible. It's not secured down. It would take 2 people to move it. Surprised it already hasn't been moved. They have no intention of securing it since it was grandfathered in, which I don't get. But those ballots are not secure. And with the attitudes like that in the township board, our elections are wide open for fraud. And another comment was, if anyone was concerned on the board, they would have written a resolution over a year ago. This is about securing the elections. When we all first brought this up, they brought it up in District 10 meeting. They must not know which district they're in. For 6 months straight, no one listened there. Again, there was 542 people that saw that and were interested enough to read the whole thing. And it was shared over and over again. So again, I'm thanking you for at least discussing, and we all know that this is something that is concerning to many people in our county. And the other thing is, there's been a lot of talk about these shots and why they delayed them. And my understanding is what I wrote, or what I read, was that there weren't enough cases in these toddlers and infants. And that's why they had to stop this experimentation of these shots. And I thank God. I prayed about it, and I thank God that they're stopped. We need to protect our babies. We need to protect all of our children. But and I think I guess the next thing was Marathon Township. We had a meeting about the getaway house situation that they're trying to put in right next to us in a wooded area that's not been touched for forever. And there were many people there from the community, people that I was so happy to see that I hadn't talked to, and they were all against it. But there were a couple in the community that I think are going to prosper from it in some way. And after the meeting, you finally get together with all your neighbors for, unfortunately, a negative thing, but there was a lot of talk, and there were talks like, well, the township can't stop it, and if they try to stop it, the state will override it. These people will go to the state and override it and give them. You need to look into this. Law enforcement has talked about it. There are people that live in the community that are law enforcement. This is not a good thing for our community. It's not a campground. It's a mini house trailer park. And when they can't keep it going with people that can afford to come and stay at it, they're going to open it up to other people. Lots of good questions were asked. So what if somebody leaves? They stay for a week and they leave for a day. Can they come back? Yeah. Now, if they can afford the price of $100 a night, they can. They can. I mean, people don't, they're going to afford it if they want to come up and do, there's wonderful people in the world, but there's people that are going to do not so nice things. And our sheriff's department knows about those people. And I guess the thing that like last night, people that were saying, oh, the state will come in and override it anyway. I think they've forgotten the essence of kindness. That your freedom to do something should not expand over my freedom to not do something. And I think that more and more of us need to stand up about those things and stand up for each other. And then the last thing is, I know Shirky opened up the red flag. If he's going to have hearings on the red flag laws, that needs to stop. Everybody needs to learn about that, and we've got to protect our Second Amendment at all costs.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Monica Driver, and I'd like to thank all of you for fulfilling your responsibility to Almighty God to take care of the people in our county. I'd like to declare from Psalm chapter 24, verse 1, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I don't enjoy bringing this today. James chapter 4, verse 14. Whereas you know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanishes away. We all get a set time here on earth. James chapter 4, verse 17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him is sin. There is a responsibility for all of the people in this entire building and anyone who is serving the public here in Lapeer County. You are on notice. You're held to a higher standard in this area because you're entrusted with these people who are God's creation. This earth is His. We are His creation. And so anybody, it's not just a job, it's not just some extra money, it's not just to add to the pension to live life out comfortably. And the decisions that you're making are affecting multitudes. And not only now, but future generations. And so the account is very serious. I can't stress it enough. The decisions that you think you're making in secret, the thoughts and the intents of the heart are exposed before Almighty God. And I care about you because this is a hard message. This is not fun. But 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10 says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he has done, whether it be good or not, good or bad. And this is the time for us to get it right. We have one opportunity. We all spend and have an eternal reward. Whether heaven or hell depends on us. We have free will. And I just want to present to you, get it right now. This is our last opportunity. Jesus Christ came as Savior. He's already came as Savior that we can repent before Him, and He's redeemed us through His blood if we repent before Him. But this is our only opportunity. Next time He returns as righteous judge. And so I just want to let everybody in this room, not only the people who are working for our county, and I thank you for that. It's a difficult thing to do. You face a lot of challenges. I don't envy your position. I can't imagine it. But I just want to encourage everybody, and not even the public servants, but everybody in this room. We get one opportunity, and I want to declare the living Lord who came to redeem us and save us from our sins and from the pit of hell. And again, this is what the Lord has given for me to share to all of you. And I'm just a faulty messenger, but this is His word. And please read it, because this is his life. He gave his life's blood for you. He came to earth. Our King who created us came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. And how you choose to believe is up to you, because you have free will. But your life is as vapor. We're not guaranteed the next minute. We think we are, but God knows. And he loved you so much. So much. That's why the King came and lived and became one of us and suffered the greatest. And so please consider. Thank you.
Thank you. I would remind people that when you're addressing the board, please
I'm sorry.
address the board.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Next person who would like to speak. Seeing none, we'll move on to our agenda topics, starting with the health department. We have two somewhat related issues. The first is very specific, related to canteen services. I'll look at and see if you have questions for Ms. Haskins.
I'll make a motion to move that in the meantime.
Support. Motion and support. Discussion. We're looking at significant increase.
This is the increase we talked about before. It doesn't even keep up with our 7.5% inflation. What issues that need to be taken care of to help with the Meals on Wheels and seniors. So I think it's definitely a needed thing. So to say have to increase. This is really something that couldn't needed before this. So it's not up to inflation yet. So
I did have a couple.
Please.
I was gonna ask, are we aware of the last increase we had, what year that was? Significant increase we had?
8 years ago.
8 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially,
I
this
brought
price.
Nancy with me too, in case she had some questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
so essentially, this pricing has been relatively stable for the last 8 years.
There have been no changes.
No changes.
Not even
No changes.
for inflation.
But there were some changes in how Canteen is able to purchase their foods, and that also added to the increase. So,
Well, considering it's been 8 years, this price increase is not surprising at all.
Other questions? Comments? Got a couple. One would be, in here it talks about an increase for 4%. Is that 4% a year, or is that 4% over the 5 years?
I had Nancy, Peter built in 4% each year to ensure that any increases. One thing that we agreed on when we met was that we would be reviewing this on a yearly basis, which is why our staff is also looking at making sure that we're planning menus accordingly, so that we're getting the seniors right, but also looking at maybe some of the seasonal things that are less expensive sometimes a year, and we can offer more than some of the other times of year when they're 2 or 3 times higher. So, for example, asparagus. It's twice as much as a lot of the asparagus right now.
One of the things on the chart of what is offered that I note for me, it sort of stands out as separate. There's a cost for soup and boost. I don't notice that from previous contracts. What is that all about?
We have some clients that are, that need the boost in order to maintain the nutritional levels that their doctors are requiring. So there are only, 3, 4, Nancy? Where are you? About 3, 4, 5 people on the program that are on boost?
For March right now, our count will be 6.
6, okay. 6 on boost, and they've been offering soup to the clients at 2 to 3 times a week, and that's been a very popular thing for the seniors.
So that's really additional costs
She asked
to
me, she
meals,
said, I said, no,
they,
that's fine.
they pay that.
Many seniors, though, when it comes to food, a couple of them they might get busy instead of meals. Usually those seniors are very malnourished and they aren't able to really metabolize meals as much. So rarely they may get boost with meals, but more often than not, boost is a replacement for the meal.
Usually John would do both.
And that would be reflected in terms of what we're getting charged for
Correct,
by
yeah.
canteen.
Yeah, it's broken down.
And our invoice, and what it was considered when we did all the
I
pricing.
don't know. I thought they did. I thought she did.
Just those
Yeah.
like an addition.
No, we did that based on our venues that were put out as well, so, yeah.
Guy can't eat probably.
Any other questions?
I could add that in order to get the boost, it is required that they have a prescription from their doctor. So this is something that comes from the doctor's orders.
One other thing, I recall that, that people who, at least, I think it's both at the centers and home delivered, they may make a donation towards the cost of these as well.
Correct.
And that has been in the past, recommended donation.
Recommended $3. Yeah.
So will that recommendation change based on this new contract? You think?
We could certainly look at that, but there are, of course, some seniors that, can afford to donate. And, you don't want to require them to donate.
But it is
Or
only,
make them feel that they can't come to the center because they feel pressured to pay more than what they really can afford.
But we can certainly look at, boosting our advertising that we do accept donations and then do certainly help with the cost of food and our ability to serve more people. So we can certainly look at that.
any other questions? Seeing none, let's call a vote then on the motion. Already has a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Passes. Thank you. Now, senior village. That relates directly.
What questions do you have for us?
We have a new language. The major change would be in the amount.
I did have a quick question on the timeline. When does this have to be approved to go on to the ballot? What's the deadline date?
I'm sorry, say that
I'm
again.
sorry, what's the deadline date for this to go on to the
It
ballot?
has to be into, the clerk's office by 4 p.m. on the 10th of May.
And that's for the August ballot, correct?
For the August ballot, correct. So my understanding is that it also, is sent out to the townships.
In personnel.
To.
It's supposed to be on the next page, I think. No, it should be on the good choice.
For their area.
And the reason I ask is actually some of the reasons for
Oh, maybe, yeah. Yeah. It's the next page.
I wish
Spreadsheet on the next
that,
page.
those former DOSA board, the senior advisory board that we have,
Includes senior program staff,
approve
fuel
and
and vehicle
give a
costs.
thumbs up on it. I
Yeah, there's a
understand the last
spreadsheet on the next
meeting you guys had, you guys only had 2 people attend, so quorum was a problem.
It
But
was more than 2. There were more than 2,
Oh, there were more.
but there
still
was
quorum was
not even close,
available.
not even close to a quorum.
Personally, I would like to see that work is, in a lot of ways, the reason that board is set up is to advise the board of commissioners on senior issues. And I understand with the pandemic and everything, it's kind of been a hiatus, and I'm very happy to see that we're getting that back up and running. So personally, I would like to see that board make its recommendation to us before we approve it. That's my personal feelings. I understand if there's time constraints, but since we do have until May, there's at least one more chance in March. And are you guys still scheduled a March meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and in my opinion, if March, there's no quorum there, and we aren't able to get enough people, then I'm fully comfortable as a board to approve it and move through without the recommendation for that board, but I would like to give one more month, especially considering it's still February, and I'm sure you guys still have a couple of people that are maybe vacationing or out of town at a certain time, so that's my comment.
I know we brought it because we were concerned about the time frame. We did, discuss it at the advisory committee meeting. At that time, we did not have all of the final information, we were looking at about a
Well, this is
3.28
cow.
line, and it explained the increase in cost and what have you. And I know I had a discussion with this last week on what we were looking at. That is correct, that we didn't have the spreadsheet with the entire breakdown available at the meeting, so that is correct. He is correct.
And that meeting, March, when is it?
I'm sorry?
March 1st? Okay, so we can have that, get with them and bring back this.
Our intention is to have that as a priority.
Okay, so if we can get that meeting and have you guys come back to us on March 10th.
Did she say?
I said, after you have that meeting, if you get that scheduled, then go back and look for it on our agenda for March 10th. Is that,
Probably not, because
that's what you're saying?
That's what I would like to see, but of course, there's other members of the board that might want to push through quick, but that's what I mean, have we made a motion yet on this issue? I would like to make a motion that we table a discussion for the March 10th meeting.
And I support that.
March 10th is our meeting.
Our meeting.
Regular board.
Regular board. Okay, there's a motion and a second discussion. I guess my one question, seeing it doesn't come up yet anywhere else, contacting the townships and other units about not charging or not capturing. Does that prevent us from doing that? Because normally that's a couple-month process.
We usually do it in January.
That was why we were trying to move things forward as we were, but that's up to you folks. You know that process better than I do. This is my first round.
I think that language that they use, which just indicates that it may be, and this has been already reviewed, my understanding, I asked this question before by corporate counsel, so if corporate counsel found that to be acceptable, then it won't be a problem. We normally would have waited until the responses came back and listed the individual ones on there, but like I say, that's caused a problem with Oakland County because you're only allowed so many words before the dot language is too long and becomes invalid. So the language that's before you right now covers that whole issue, and if it's gotten corporate council approval by the
Okay, so we may end up where none of the units captured, but it'll be too late to change the language.
Yeah, and there is one that's gone on the record already, that's in the court, which was the city of TVA.
Okay. They've already gone on record.
Yes. Not, in response to, so we're still gonna go through the steps of asking the question and getting the answer so that we can still at least be able to know that information and share that information with our constituents as it comes up and becomes irrelevant. But that should not hold us out by the so this proposal.
Okay.
And I plan on also making a new appointment to replace the past. I'll make that at our next meeting so that she's already aware and that I do the time for the next city advisory board on the first.
I know I made an inquiry about who's been attending and who hasn't. Those meetings, if you can get back to me.
Nancy did get me a list, and I did forward that to
Okay.
Doreen yesterday.
Okay. I may not see.
It's not an attendance list though, because there was not an attendance list. It's a list of people who are on the board.
So,
But I think it's probably some of the members that are there will be now able to help get it identified for us who's not been there and who is with us. So we can go from there.
okay.
But,
We haven't had meetings.
I'm sorry.
We haven't had meetings. Last year, there weren't the meetings that were held. There were very few
Very few.
Because of COVID.
because of COVID, right?
Right.
So,
At this point in time, we put out an agenda for the entire year, and the intention is to maintain that. I also will tell you that Nancy has scheduled a meeting next Wednesday for advisory committee members so that she can go over with them better what programming is provided by the senior program so that they all have a better understanding of that. I thought that was a very good point that was made. And I have no problem with holding this over until after the next advisory committee meeting, as long as it's not gonna hurt the timeline. We were concerned that we needed to have this out for the timeline. So no qualms at all. I think that the committee members that were at the advisory committee meeting were asked very good questions and were very interested in, and I appreciate that a lot.
I just don't think the advisory board brought it to us in the past. But if that's what you'd like, that's fine.
Yeah, that's just, I figured, we have them there, that board serves a purpose. It's nice to have the board make a set recommendation. Because I know some of the members of that board, I've talked to in the past, had to say, so we do great. So, I think that's a good,
We're gonna make sure we send out the agenda, of course, next week. But then more than that, I'll be reaching out by phone to each member to invite them to the meeting and let them know.
But no, I have absolutely no problems with holding until after the next advisory committee, as long as you're good with the time frame.
And there's a meeting next Wednesday.
It's March 1st.
Oh, just a regular
The
meeting.
23rd is when you were gonna meet with,
Okay.
provide some information. Are we all set? Okay. I didn't hear that you finally did the final vote.
We have.
You have it.
So they can do that.
Very good.
Any further discussion? Seeing that, all those in favor, this would be a motion to postpone the decision until March 10th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Postpone to March 10th. Administration.
Come up to the podium for this one. We lead by example. If you want to ask for something, you come. Face the music, just like anybody else. So what I have before us is a request for renewal with Assessment Administrative Services. This is a renewal contract. You're well aware of that for years and years. Greg Hill is part of Assessment Administrative Services, worked on our behalf. This was a contract that he had in place. Greg is retiring, so I took the leisure of contacting the owners, Bill and Lisa Griffin, and we talked about a contract. There was some stipulations, and there was some numbers given. I didn't quite like the numbers, so we spent some time renegotiating those numbers, and we drilled down over a course of 5 years, would save nearly $100,000 on that contract. In order to do that, what they're asking for renewal is a 5-year as opposed to a 1 year. What I don't want to do is I want to protect us from inflation. I want to protect us from any type of extra hiring practices that they would need on their end, and I'd like to lock it in on the price. So with that, this is a 2% increase over the next 5 years. If you're added in, Greg is still our consultant. His prices would go up as well. In that case, we're taking that out of the budget. So what does this mean? It means that we're with the price we have been paying for the last 2 or 3 years with administrative assessment administrative services, and we're rolling that forward 5 years with a 2% increase. So it locks us in, it builds in consistency, it builds in reliability with our budget, and overall, it's going to save us about $100,000. So what I'd like to do is like that permission for is that we enter into the contract with Assessment Administrative Services, and we can put that one to bed so that we get their work, because this is the busy season in the treasurer's office.
Okay, motion to move. Support. With a question, Mr. Chairman, has corporate counsel reviewed this yet?
As our corporate counsel, no, it is the exact same contract that they had before. The only difference in this, the only difference that was signed off by corporate counsel before, the difference in the price. That's the only change that occurred.
So there was no other language change.
There was 0 other language change.
If I recall correctly, there's a 30-day out clause.
We always have a way out, yes.
Yeah, so even though it's a 5-year contract for either party.
We can terminate within 30 days. It's actually number 2. This agreement shall remain in effect for 5 years unless terminated or extended in the provision. Yes, 30 days.
I might point out to the general public, don't have background on this. This is something that we did a number of years ago when the state changed requirements for what counties had to have for an equalization rate. And the level that our county population would require was such that we had nobody at that level at that current time. It was very difficult, still, I'm pretty sure, it's very difficult to find somebody with the appropriate level of certification.
Yeah, I would mention, we were not alone in the county.
Yes.
That occurred across the state.
Yeah. And to some extent, we were tightening our budget belts very firmly at that point. And that was another way to try to cooperate with another county government and save money locally. So there is a significant background to this. We've been doing it for, I forget the number of years, probably since 2008 or 2009. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, that's passed.
Thank you. While I'm up here, I'd like to request that we pay our shipper's invoice of $264.
And I make that motion.
I can't believe there'd be any debate about this one. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Veterans Affairs has a request for approval of budget amendment in our packet. Are there questions?
Jack, did your office review this?
Yes.
I'll move it then.
There's a motion, of course. Second. Discussion. See none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say aye. Number 6. I said it was number 9, I was wrong.
Yeah, for a second, okay.
Secure our election petition discussion.
Yeah, we have one more of that.
We know how-
Oh, sorry.
No.
I will move 5B's request.
Okay, motion on second this. And again, this is our standard quarterly request. I believe administration has reviewed it.
Yes, I did.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those opposed, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Okay, back now to number 6.
Okay, this one was added to the agenda, because we, up here at this board, can represent the community. Last week, we were all presented with some petitions from each of our districts, and this was their request, so this petition for the board for discussion today. We'll see where we can go from there, get some answers from our county clerk, she's here, so, and see what we can do to get this maybe possibly to fruition. And their petition reads, as I understand, undersigned, as a citizen of Lapeer County, I'm extremely concerned regarding the security of the voting process in the past and future elections. I am petitioning the Lapeer County Board of Commissioners to remove the Dominion voting machines and revert back to using paper ballots counted by hand. I also ask that all ballots, drop boxes, are removed from all locations in the county of Lapeer. Every township has adequate office hours for absentee ballots to be dropped off and delivery by postal service. So that was the petition was brought to us, signed by the constituents of our district. So where do we stand at this point?
I'm assuming you'll have a motion of some kind.
We'd like to make a motion to approve and move forward with that type of. Or
Should we
we
have
have
another?
like a resolution. We're gonna need time, but this is always gonna be a discussion. How we would like to make that resolution. So I'd like to make a motion to move forward on the resolution the next couple of weeks. On going to birth paper ballot.
Yeah, I would say that motion would probably be out of order because we need something to actually move. But what I would like to say before you make a motion, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman. I actually like how this is separated, because you can separate out pretty easily, because the problem with the petition is the second paragraph. These are all things that the state controls, which we have no power, for instance, to decide Dominion voting machines. That's, and Teresa, please correct me if I'm incorrect, but I do believe the state gives certain contracts, and we have to pick from said contracts, and actually done at the township level as well, correct? Or is it
If it's
county?
all right with the board, we'll allow, one of the things we wanted to do was get some information.
Which,
I'll remind the board that our county clerk is an elected official. She has her own authority, and she works under statutory duties assigned by the state. So she's our expert and responsible.
Do the best of being an expert, but Mr. Miller is correct. The governance for the type of election equipment, all of the laws and all the rules come down to us at the county level from the state and also from the federal government. There was a change in the electronic tabulator equipment made, I'm going to say 2016, 2017. Those agencies that create ballot counting equipment had to go through, to my understanding, go through federal reviews, and then once the federal requirements were met, then it came down to the state of what was acceptable equipment. And there were, at that point in time, 3 styles of ballot counting equipment that could be chosen by the local counties to use.
Or the other side. And everybody in the back here pretty well?
Yes.
Okay.
Stay close to the mic.
Okay, thanks. The delicate voice. And so, in the state of Michigan, at that decision to upgrade election equipment, the 3 companies that were chosen were ES&S, Hart, and Dominion. And the majority of the counties, we have 83 counties in Michigan, do use the Dominion equipment. So that's the genesis of where that came from. But it comes down federal, state, and now local. And as with, I've read the petition, I respect everyone's concerns and their questions, but I would wonder if your commission has the ability to actually govern anything with regard to the state mandated electronic ballot counting equipment, or the decision to have or not have ballot boxes. I understand the concerns, but I've actually reached out to the Bureau of Elections because I'm interested in knowing when legislation came down to us in all the counties to move from hand-counted paper ballots. We have paper ballots. I hope we always have paper ballots, because that's my mark of what I choose to vote for, and then that is the balancing proof of what happened with my decision of who I want to vote for. So my question to the Bureau of Election was, when exactly did that change happen? I'm gonna throw out maybe in the 50s, maybe the 60s, I'm not sure. Because for instance, in 1992, this probably predates Brendan's ability to vote. But at that point in time, I know because I was the county clerk for a brief moment, 11 months, and we at that point in time had punch card voting. So you had a little card that used a stylus, and yet your ballot was actually a multi-page document that you would be in the voting booth and you'd be punching. Those punch cards were counted by an electronic machine that had to be specially programmed, etc. So I know in 1992 there was electronic ballot counting. So as soon as I get the answer from the Bureau of Elections, I'll share that with you, because I'm curious myself to know when this change happened. We do sort of in our post-election audits, hand counting of ballots were assigned, and in November 2020, I was assigned to do 4 precincts. We counted the physical ballots to make sure it matched the number of people that were in poll. And then we had to count an office that we were assigned by the Bureau of Elections, the state of Michigan department. Those all matched exactly then. we did not count every office on the ballot. Many of the things with our elections have been designed to give the voter as much flexibility, as much privilege as possible. That's why those ballot boxes came about, for people who didn't want to put extra postage to return their 80 ballots. So they could take them any time of the day or night and give them to their township or city official. So that's where ballot boxes came from. Are they a good idea, bad idea? It's not my lane to decide. All of these things are regulated through policy or law. So that's a discussion about the ballot boxes. Back to the paper ballots and counting. If that would be something the state of Michigan decides to do, y'all are gonna have to figure out where the money's coming from. Because to hire teams to hand count ballots and to be accurate with that hand counting is a task. It's doable. It will be a lengthy process. There would have to be checks and balances on that. For instance, one of the privileges given to voters in certain elections is to straight party voting. I want to vote Democrat, every Democrat candidate on here, but I don't want to sit here and I don't want to mark them. So I do straight party voting. As a voter, I have the privilege to change if there's some Democrat I don't want to vote for. I can go ahead and move that and do a mark on my ballot. I would suggest that it would be very difficult for people doing, not impossible, but it would take a lot of education for teams to understand how to read straight party, and then go through the ballot and make sure my ballot is read correctly if I change my mind throughout the ballot. So those are just some things to think about. It would take a lot of staffing, and if this decision is made, I'm sure there will be policies put in place. Everything that I do, everything that the local clerks do is all regulated, and we do our very best to follow everything exactly. If there are questions that come up by our election inspectors that are trained or by the citizens, if I don't have the answer, I find the answer and I find it from a legitimate source, so I'm satisfied I'm retrieving information that has law policy to back it up. So those are just my comments about the petition. I understand the genesis of it. I appreciate everybody's concerns. I welcome any and all questions, but just that's county clerk's opinion today.
And just to clarify one other issue, drop boxes. That's one that I personally don't like. I don't like drop boxes, but I'm also the same person opinion. I don't think you should have same day voter registration, because if you're too lazy to get out and register to vote a month before, then you shouldn't be voting in elections. That's just me.
And that's me as well. But I was just one vote in many in 2018.
Yeah.
Why they would do that and cause an extra burden on local clerks the day of the elections. But citizens got to vote. I'm just one vote, you're just one vote.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. The drop boxes, I don't have any personal desire to keep them or not keep them.
Is that township, did townships decide to put those up, or is there state requirements that require them to have a drop box?
And it was to allow more privileges for the voters, more citizens have more flexibility, I think. But that's the research I'm asking, because I need to know if it's policy or law. And then after all of the discussion about drop boxes, there's more things going on in Lansing about cameras have to be on the drop boxes. I understand about the destruction of the one here in that country. Very upsetting. So there's a lot of talk, I think, about those drop boxes over in Lansing, but I don't have anything to discuss today.
All right, thank you.
And I see not a huge problem with ballot boxes as long as they're secured with cameras and stuff. Some of them have seen some that have been moved throughout different areas. That I don't agree with. But when they're in the township, a lot of townships do try to protect their boxes. But there's something we probably should look at. Townships should look at.
Well, and some townships had drop boxes for things like taxes, and people would shove their ballots in the tax drop box too, which didn't quite help things out.
I will share with you that at an election recently, there's a drop box outside of our court complex building with the treasurer's office. Somebody put their ballot in that drop box. It was sealed, and the the treasurer's staff gave it to us in the clerk's office, and we had to give it to the local clerk because there were all these levels of security about ballots. So there was a citizen that didn't know which drop box to use. Just wanted to get rid of their ballot. Hurry, I guess, I don't know. But you see, there's a lot of things.
I understand the approval, the state gave approval on machines, and I'm understanding that. Just if you're gonna use machines, then these are gotta meet these requirements, and this is what we're gonna allow you to use. But does that mean that you have to use those machines? If you use these machines, these are the ones you use. But if you don't use these machines, what's wrong with paper that's been working? And I understand your cost and training. The reason people are doing this right now, as you heard from the gentleman back there, anybody that's questioning the election is a terrorist. Come on, folks. We have to wake up a little bit. We're calling them a terrorist. It's written. It's not something that's maybe they're talking about doing. It's something they're doing. Today, Hillary questioned it for 4 years. But today, we're questioning it because we see what happened. And yes, the girls, they did a great job. We call our clerks, our canvassers, they did a super job. And if they did anything out of line, they could go to jail. So they're not going to go do something like that. And the question that the people have is, okay, went in this machine, but really what's going on the other side of the machine? What's going on with the program? And how come those people aren't held to the same standard as you are? Who's to say that they're right if you're a company and you're the person is the one handling the machine? So yes, you're the boss that's saying my machines are accurate and nothing could go wrong. And you talk to any IT person out there, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we can change stuff on the inside. There's people that know how to move stuff on your icons on your phone, on your computer. There's people out there that know how to do that. So we need to question that. And because we're not questioning that, because now we're terrorists because we're asking about that, they want to go to paper ballot because they think they have control. The people have control.
We do have a paper ballot. We
But
need to always have a paper
right,
ballot.
so they can go and put this in and turn it in at the time, and let's count that paper ballot.
I'm sorry,
We're here for discussion, right? We're here to find out. That's okay, you can rebuttal what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what the people are seeing, what they're hearing, what they believe. And so we gotta call them a terrorist because they're questioning it. Our job is not to call them a terrorist because they're questioning it. Our job is not to tell the parents that they can't question the superintendent of the school board. That's not our job. Our job is they hired us to do the job for them. And they're asking for this information. So that's why this got put on here. And we're just talking about the discussion moving it forward. So we can go on about what the state couldn't tell us. She's finding out more information. What's the law say? The law kind of told us, or the government can tell us how to operate now. Is that what this country was always based on? We're supposed to be able to do it in the eyes of the Constitution of the American people, for we the people. Not how the government says we have to do it. That doesn't make you a terrorist. That means you're questioning it. Now, we might find Teresa's right, and we can't do nothing, and this is the way we go, and we accept that. But we all know in this last election, a lot of things happened that aren't real, and they're going to be coming out, just like all the other stuff that's been talked about is now coming to fruition. But the way the government works, we don't find out about it for 6 or 8 more years. People are tired of that. So they're trying to make a move on their own. So that's why I want to make a motion moving forward. However, but go ahead.
Yeah, so all I'll just say is I actually agree with you. So just so the public knows, elections is the one issue that I care about a lot because I like elections. For some reason, election day is a calendar event for me. I'm excited because on May 4th, there's an election in the UK for local seats there, and I'm going to be watching it all day. Why? Because I'm weird like that. So, when it comes to elections, these are things that are important to me, that matter to me. I've done a lot of research. And actually, everything Rick sends to me or anything I get from the public, I just want to let you know, I do read it. And anything that comes out about elections, like the Cyber Ninja report that came out in Arizona, for some reason, I decided I was going to read the whole thing. And my sanity is, it's still waning from having to read that hundreds of pages. But what I will say is this, these petitions, I hope the
people who signed it don't mind. I actually sent them to the state of Michigan because I want the state to know that people in my district, and I would encourage all my fellow commissioners as well, send your, I took the manila to ship them right off. I would encourage every single one of my commissioners to do the same so people in the state of Michigan understand that this is a real issue. Secretary of State's office, Jocelyn Benson, who is only going to be Secretary of State for another year. So I think that's the whole. In regards to this, I've done a lot of research study into this. One on the cost, using the UK model, because I know that's what a lot of people talk about. One thing to keep in mind with the UK model is when they do their voting, they only vote on one issue at a time, sometimes 2 or 3 if they have local elections. But roughly speaking, it takes them about 4 to 5 hours to count, but they have a bigger constituency. I kind of did the math for Lapeer County, not perfect math by any means. It takes us roughly about 30 to 50 hours to count all the ballots and get it all done, which is actually pretty close to how the ballots used to be counted back in the 70s and 60s. I tried to get as much data as I could from that. Because as people may know, back when we used to just count paper, it used to take several days before we got the results, which was always an exciting time because newspapers would ship out different things on who was winning, who was losing. So to create more confusion. It would cost us roughly about $7,000 to $10,000 per precinct. That's roughly what we're looking at. So if you had Elba Township, I think has 3 precincts. So you're looking at
plus 2 AV county boards.
Plus 2 AV county boards. So you're looking at about 50,000, 40,000-ish for them to implement paper ballots.
That for that township.
Yeah, for that township. Which would be definitely something that I don't think the township would be ready to pay for. Maybe it would have to come from millages, but either way, that's stuff that still has to be decided by the state because the state determines our actual voting system when it comes to paper versus electronic, correct? We can't make those changes.
That is my understanding, and as an example, probably about a year ago, there was a Southern Township that had one issue, and they wanted to do paper ballots, and I was told by the state that isn't possible. So that's what got me having them do the research because I want to see the background.
So you are in effect still pursuing that question. Is it possible?
Right, I am.
Okay, because that was one of my questions.
Yeah, after.
Is it either or one?
No, I was told with that, I think it was Wright Township, I think, don't quote me. They had one thing on, and they said, let's just do paper ballots, count ourselves like we used to. And I said, I'll check. And the state said, no, that's not like, I think the word legal maybe, but anyway. So when I got a copy of this petition that's been circulated in all the districts, I emailed for research and I didn't get an answer yet. So I emailed this morning before the meeting to say how we come along with my request. So as soon as I have that, I'll share it with all you folks. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So why would I send the Secretary of State petitions that were given to us?
Because
Why would I turn that in?
because I think the Secretary of State needs to know that this is an issue taking place in our county, in our districts, and our people care about it. That's why I sent it there. Because these are people, I don't think these people care who gets it done. They just want something to get done. So, and as I said, with the drop boxes, if county policy would allow it, I don't think we could do it because we don't run elections. That's not our jurisdiction. It'd have to probably come from something from Teresa that requires secure drop boxes, because I have no problem with secure drop boxes. I think that's a necessity if they're going to take place, if they're going to take place at all. I think the better route is to make it easier just to mail in the ballot, because drop boxes are filled with potential concerns.
Well, they can mail it out, just they choose to put it in the box.
Yeah, but our mail
People
system
can put a stamp on it, mail it today.
Yeah, well, our mail system though
Food stamp, sorry.
isn't the best either. So.
Well, and again, my understanding, drop boxes were developed for the voters to allow them to bring their ballot back to their local clerks.
Could you research the topic? Maybe you really have already started that. If there are any standards for having a drop box?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that because now it's,
Because
I have questions and want answers myself.
Because maybe this is something that the citizens may want to petition their township, if it's a township decision, they want to petition them to not have a drop box.
That's I think it's at the state level, but I don't want to quote that until I know for sure. Okay.
And all I would say is with paper ballots, one thing I would stress is you want to who love paper ballots, Lyndon B. Johnson. You want to know why you love paper ballots? because at any time during an election in Texas that he didn't like, he knew who to call, and people would go to there, and ballots would come into existence. If you don't believe me, read some of the documentaries on it. Elections have been claimed to be stolen with paper ballots and electronically. So just keep in mind, just because it's paper, does not mean it's any more legitimate than an electronic ballot. There's been plenty of elections, 1876, 1901 in Alabama, plenty of documentation on it.
Some would say 1960.
Some would say 1960 with Richard Nixon and the grave ballots of Chicago, which cost him the election. So something to keep in mind. There's a lot of research to do into that as well, which I, for some reason, decided.
There's always a way they're gonna try to figure it cheap. But you can ask any citizen of the United States, if you travel, if you went outside of Lapeer County, you saw it Lapeer County, but I'm just saying, if you travel, ever in history have you gone and seen only one man's voice, one man's sign up all the way, and maybe once in a while, I know who the other side was. All over this country, we had boats with flags and signs. We had truckers with flags and signs. We had people marching in the streets with flags and signs. And not one time did you see a crowd that was doing that for the other side. And on the day of election, that night, every one of us said, those who were watching, we seen it was leading in that direction. But they were saying it was too early to call. Fox News was the first to make a call that night. And they called it on Arizona, who just opened up less than an hour. So we're calling it for Biden. And that's when America said, oh, wait a minute. What just happened to us? So you didn't need people could see it. Because I drive down 75 from here to Florida, I promise you, I mean, billboards. I didn't see one billboard from the other side. We had a president for the first time in history sat in the basement all that time. He's in this office. Everything's changed upside down since that time. So you wonder why the people are asking about this. And you're a terrorist because you're asking about this. And all they wanted was some proof. Let's just do an investigation on the machine so that we can settle all this today. They still haven't done it. The judges aren't listening, they're looking to find out if there's proof for the American people. Sending this off to our Secretary of State, I think they sent out some ballots, a lot of ballots, right? That's what we want to send it to.
Well, as I said, I made copies, so I still have my own. I would just also like to state, for the record, I worked for Donald Trump 2016 and 2020. I knocked thousands of doors. So don't think I'm coming at this as some sort of secret Biden guy. I'm not. And honestly, when I knocked those doors, I knocked doors in Wisconsin, in Iowa, in North Carolina, and Ohio. And when I was knocking those doors, that is where I made the determination that we're in trouble. Because what I found when I was knocking doors in the suburbs, not the rural areas, but when I was knocking doors in the suburbs in places like Kenosha, which I thought Kenosha, you guys all remember Kenosha, that got tore up by Black Lives Matter. I thought for sure when I was knocking doors in places where it marked Republican on, these guys were going to be ticked off and ready to vote for Donald Trump and not going to let Biden. I was shocked and quite frankly confused at the amount of support that Biden had. And now, you want to know what though? Knocking doors and talking to people now again in those same suburban areas, guess what? They all think that was a really dumb idea to put Joe Biden in office because now they see what's going on, which is why if we play our cards right, we're going to have a new Secretary of State, we're going to have a new governor, and we're going to have a domination in the federal Congress. But all I have to keep in mind is, while it's true that there was a lot of support and a lot of people fighting and speaking out for Donald Trump, and I was one of them, when you knock those doors and you talk to people, there was just this weird, visceral hatred for Donald Trump for absolutely no reason. And those same exact people who voted for Biden before and then voted for Trump before and flipped to Biden that I talked to, I can guarantee every single one of them are wishing they hadn't done so. So I just want to throw that out there as well, make it clear, I'm not some Biden stan or anything like that. From my experience, that's where I found the problems. The other problem that we had is we got outfoxed by the Democrats when it came to door knocking. Because every time I went to a door, a Democrat knocked on that door 3 times before us because we didn't have the volunteers out there to do things. That's the other thing to keep in mind. Everyone out here who cares about your country, who cares about getting Biden out of office, who cares about doing something, step up, knock doors, call people and make sure that we don't let this election slip by and let Democrats beat us out. That's all I'll say. I'll close out my mouth.
We got this outworked.
We got outworked. We got outworked, and I was, I'm done with that, sorry.
You need to.
No, I was just gonna sit down, but I don't wanna be rude.
Okay, well, let me say,
Everybody that's coming.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Teresa, and let us know as soon as you, when do you think?
I will.
Okay, so unless there's other discussion by the board, I think it'd be all right if we could just postpone our discussion until Teresa can come back with some answers, specific answers.
Yes, do you think within the next 2 weeks we could?
I wouldn't be able to say
Well, we
that. As soon
can't
as I
get-
know something, I'll share it.
I just want to get a wayside, because the people don't want it to see both sides, so I'd like to see it brought up in a certain period of time. I think we can bring it up in 2 weeks to re-see if she got the answer back. Instead of waiting till a month, or it could be a month, but at least we can ask her if she did to update the people at that point. So they know what's going on, that what we're hearing from the state, what the laws are, and everybody can hear it together. I don't want nothing else to it.
I think discussion on a potential resolution to say that people who were questioning the election are not terrorists, I don't think is out of order. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that, because I agree. While me and you probably disagree on the election, I might disagree with some of you out there, I certainly don't believe you're terrorists.
But you're, and it's written.
No, I know.
Parents is the same way, so everybody should be appalled at what we're hearing. This is why people are getting upset. This is why somebody told me the other day that I belong to a group. I know these people because they come here, I've got to meet them. I don't belong to any group. I'm not a Tea Party guy. I'm not a each individual group guy. I respect every one of them. They're my constituents. I am proud of them because they stand forward. So I'm not a group. What you're seeing out here is the citizens are raising up on their own and coming to us. I say we should take heed and follow up on that. And because you're right, let's make a motion before because we're in discussion of the fact that terrorists, that our citizens are not terrorists, that they're just questioning our government, which they have the right to do.
I'll work with you on a resolution on that. I don't think we can put a motion before today, because we can't really make a motion for something that isn't actionable. But I'll be more than willing to work with you to create that resolution for you before, so.
So on that record, we gotta get something moving. And send them.
All right, if we say 2 weeks, and we'll see the report. We know the Department of State is very efficient.
But you won't have an answer 2 weeks, but hopefully you do, you bring it to us, and that will go from there. So,
Fair enough, all right, we'll put it back on for 2 weeks, review where we're at, and that's alive. See no objection, we'll call an action. Our clerk, make sure that we don't bring that back up. Okay, I have no other agenda topic that we need this public time again. So if there are any members of the public who would like to comment, you're certainly welcome.
Mind you, I only took 2 minutes and 35 seconds. I was the shortest one. Okay. I've told this board before. I stand before the board. I stand before the public. I have been in countries serving the United States military and went into their communities and watched their election practices to ensure that those countries had fair elections. Okay? In those countries, they had the right to vote, but they had to come and vote. Convenience. I'm getting tired of hearing convenience. It is our right to vote. It's not a convenience to vote. I take that right very seriously. I defend everybody's right to vote. I do not defend people's convenience to vote. Okay? Now, the way I just heard, and I can be corrected by somebody in the know, the state of Michigan states to each county and each township that they have to have voting by these machines as a convenience. They have to have drop boxes as a convenience. Miss Jocelyn Benson, just so happened this morning, I was going through old paperwork, and my wife received her notice from Jocelyn Benson about the upcoming elections and how she should mark the box for all future elections, that she be able to be, that they will send her the ballots in the mail for her to submit. I have that at home. I will bring it if you don't believe it. If you all didn't get one, let me know. I'll show you what it looks like. I agree with you, 100%. The woman must go. Okay? I'm sorry. Voting is not a convenience. It needs to be as secure as possible. That's what we were there for. To keep thugs and other people from beating on people and telling them that's who you vote for. That's who you vote for. The gentleman that won the election that I was there for got 98% of the vote in a country where he was hated. I don't know. Didn't seem to be a fair election, but you know what they did? They took all those boxes and took them behind closed doors. They did not allow us as observers to be in there. Sound familiar?
Public time, just to clarify, the electronic tabulators are not a convenience. It is what was directed by the state of Michigan Bureau of Elections. And that's what the research I'm going to be hoping they can provide to me is when they made that change from hand counted paper ballots. So it isn't a convenience, it's the current, I want to say law for lack of better information until I find that information out. The ballot drop boxes, I believe, were something that was done to allow voters maybe convenience or maybe to make sure their ballots got back into their township or village or city clerk. So the electronic tabulators, I don't know that it's a convenience more than a change in the law. But I will be happy to correct what I'm saying when I have something more research and something I want to say the law to provide a copy to you. Okay.
Any other comments from general public?
William Hamilton, Lapeer Township. So we suggest if it's required to have some kind of electronic system, even though I don't like them, maybe we switch from Dominion. I'd be willing to, as a taxpayer, support paying to switch machines to some other vendor. I don't know if you're aware of this, but back when these election issues were first discovered, Eric Krumer, the head of Dominion at the time, was on video stating that he made sure that Trump wasn't going to win. So that now we've got all these election questions and issues, and most of them involving the Dominion machines. So why the hell are we still using Dominion when the CEO is on video speaking, bragging about making sure somebody doesn't win? So if we're going to make change, let's at least get rid of the Dominion machines if we're going to require some electronic system anyway, and look into a different vendor. Let's at least do that. Also, just as far as people that are addressing their government being terrorists, we're not terrorists. People are just, I think, frustrated with the government not being responsive to the people. Some places not just ignoring the will of the people, and it's frustrating them, and it's coming out in meetings, and people just had enough of being ignored. I was down in Oakland County at their Board of Commissioners meeting back in September, fighting the mask mandates in schools. I don't agree with masking kids. And they actually There's probably 1,000 of us there. They actually turned the sprinkler system on us. You want to talk about being disrespected by elected officials? That's why people are frustrated and they're showing up and getting, irritated. That's unacceptable. I mean, yeah, some people might take it a little too far, but it's out of a place of frustration. People not, elected officials not listening. Just listen to the people. Do what they're asking you to do. That's all.
Other comments? Oh.
Carolyn North Township. I have never been called a terrorist. A terror, maybe. I don't know. A rebel by many. I ask that you investigate the funding that purchased these drop boxes. We all know that it was private funding. History of drop boxes. I'm sure there's drop boxes different places, but the history of these drop boxes. Who made the decision to have these drop boxes? Who filled out the grant if it was private funds for these drop boxes? And I think talking about knocking on doors, one of my rebel friends back there said that we were too busy going to rallies, too busy flying our American flags. Now we are flying our Canadian flags, by the way. God bless Canada. God protect Canada. And as someone in Canada said this morning, to save Canada, it's going to be acts of God and the kindness of man. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's not okay what's happening. And I'll stop there with that. Because we're pretty passionate about how we feel about our Canadian brothers and sisters. I just ask for you to do that. I hate to tell everybody, but we're all on a list. I may be on there a couple times. I don't care. My daughters who are grown women and have had to deal with this stuff in the working world could not be at rallies, could not do some of these things, have said to us, thank you for being there for us, Mom and Dad. Thank you for giving us the information, the news, because they don't have time. We don't have time. We should be concentrating on basic needs every day, but we're taking the time. I thank you for what you guys do, and I thank you for listening today. I'm not really sure. I like that you sent those to the Secretary of State, but we're already on a list, so it doesn't matter. You're not.
Hi, Carol Brown, Lapeer Township. I don't know a whole lot about what we were talking about with the elections and who decides who gets, the machine for Lapeer County. I do know that the Republican Party state committee took a vote among themselves as to if they wanted paper ballots for the machines, and it came out being machines. There was only a few people that voted for the paper ballot, so I'm just informing you of that. I don't know what that means, if their committee report makes any difference to the state, but I assume it would, or why would they do that? Just sharing that information.
Other comments?
You don't want public.
One more.
Yeah, time to fill it all the way out, but I didn't want to miss my spot, so I can fill this out the rest of it if you want me to do later.
Truman Mass from Untitled Chapter. I just wanted to say a few words. Appreciate you all listening to your constituents in your areas when they have concerns. Our Constitution starts off with "we the people." And we are a federalist society, federalism, right? There's checks and balances. There's different levels of authority. All authority is delegated by God, right? And the Bible calls you guys ministers of God to reward those that do good and to punish evildoers, right? So you have a position of authority, and all authority is delegated to you by God. And yes, the issue before everybody today is about elections and how the elections are going to work, right? The Constitution says the elections are determined by the states. States are made up of counties, townships, people, we the people, right? Counties, the way federalism works is there's a higher magistrate, there's a lower magistrate. They're there to check one another. If one authority steps out of bounds, it's the duty of the lower magistrates to stand against tyranny, right? That's the whole concept, the whole idea of America. So when we the people have a concern, we go to our elected officials that have delegated authority. It's time those people with that delegated authority stand on their authority, right? And execute the authority that God has delegated to them. Even if the idea is, again, we are standing on the Constitution. We have a set standard of law, right? If the state oversteps the bounds, it's the county's job to step up and to stand. We need some men and women with integrity. The Bible says we are to elect those that fear God and hate covetousness. So we need people to do that. I thank you guys for listening to the constituents in your districts. But the idea that everything comes from the federal government to the states down to us and that we can't do anything about it, that's completely unconstitutional. We need to go back and stand on the Constitution. No, we the people, we're a bottom-up society. If we are a top-down society, it's time we stand up and fix it. That's what people are petitioning you guys to do. You have been elected and put in positions of authority, and we need to stand on the authority that God has delegated to us. I appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Again, my name is Truman Mast. If I'm a terrorist, I'm a terrorist for Jesus Christ. And I'm okay with that. They want me what you want. I want to stand on righteousness, and I want people around me to stand on righteousness too. I have 5 little children, 7 and younger. They need their dad. They need their local leaders, their churchmen. If the churchmen don't do it, here we are, right? We need people with integrity, backbone, to do what is right against all odds in the face of tyranny and evil. We know the spirit of the age is evil. We need men filled with the Holy Spirit to do something against the spirit of the age. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none then, we'll keep tradition and do commissioners' reports. How about we start with Commissioner Bell?
Well, I just want to say to everyone, thank you for your comments. Thank you for showing up. Also, just to clarify on the petitions, don't worry, no one's last name is on there. Black those out. Because, I mean, in all honesty, I really don't want the government having anyone's last name, and it doesn't matter if the first name's on there, it doesn't matter. So don't worry, they don't have your last names, but if they really want to Google search or, search all of Marathon Township and find certain first names and just guess and guess. I guess we'll send them on a wild goose hunt. I guess, I don't know.
They're not.
But in regards to the discussion today, first off on the senior millage, I would like, as I said, to see the seniors programs advisory board, or whatever we decide to call it now, former DOSA board, play a bigger role. From the sounds of it, that's going to be happening. The seniors board is going to be taking on more roles and responsibilities and really some more visibility than they have in the last, especially the last 2 years, but probably in the last several years, which is great. We need somebody who's going to be more vigilant on that than the county commission is, because the commission has to run the whole thing and their specific duty. And I do believe the reason they were made is we built that millage and we wanted someone to be able to watch over the millage and advise us on set millage programs. So I think it's really important to get their input. In regards to the final topic, I know I've talked quite a bit on that, so I'm not going to talk much more. All I'm going to say is, as I mentioned, I worked for Trump in 2016. when I worked for the GOP then, which, by the way, anybody you know that works with the party, the state party or anything during election time, and you meet them, please say thank you, because that job, not only do you not get paid much, but you're put under immense pressure and very little reward. So if you know anybody, I know that people who did it last time around had a very unrewarding job, and it was difficult then, but just thank them because it's difficult to get people involved. I just remember when I was there in 2016, we were getting calls all the time about volunteers and helping out. And I know when I talked to the people who took my job in 2020, it wasn't so much. And I think what happened is we got a little complacent. We looked at the rallies, we went to the rallies, and we seen the trucks and the boats, and we said, you know what, we got this, no problem. The Democrats, meanwhile, were sitting there stewing with their never Trump pink hats on, saying, oh, we got to do something to do this. And they got really fired up and they got committed to doing things. And we got a bit outworked, as Giles said. We got outworked. I'm not going to let that happen again. I sure hope no one else in here lets that happen again. That's why I, and anyone else who wants to come with me, I'm going down, I'm knocking doors for John James for Congress, because we're set up here at Lisa McLean, but there's plenty of districts down in Oakland County that needs our help, and I'm going to go down there and I'm going to help them out. Anywhere across the state we can do that. Because the way we're going to do that, the federal system, as it was just brought up, is we change the representatives in other places that aren't our own. We're safe here. Lisa McLean, she's a guaranteed seat. But over in Genesee County, I bet you we can get rid of Dan Kildee. I guarantee we can get rid of Dan Kildee. So let's get rid of Dan Kildee. Let's get rid of those Democrats in those other places. And join me along with that. So I hope everyone in here would consider going and knocking doors, going and fighting a good fight, and getting Governor Whitmer the heck out of office as well. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. And thank you all again for showing up and speaking out and being involved. We need more help, for sure.
Commissioner Jarvis.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, number one, can we just make sure that we get on the agenda next week, appointments? Again, just, there'll be a few issues coming out from CMH Senior Advisory, I'll be making an appointment. And then, the only other thing is we had this, special ARPA committee, myself and Rick and Brian were able to attend that. And I'll save any details for that, because that's just a long, ongoing process. And it's too early to reveal directions yet, because we're still in a lot of the due diligence. And when I say we, I want to give extra credit to our administrator and his staff. That's what I basically wanted to speak about, is the fact that Quentin and his staff have done a yeoman's job this past year. I've said that before, as far as a new administration coming in, all the responsibilities that they've had, and then COVID responsibilities on top of that, and now all the ARPA and different dollars on top of that. Anybody else could have their plate full, and on large initiatives of infrastructure nature, in particular something like broadband, it would be really easy to just kind of say, well, we'll do what we can. We'll see how things unfold in the state. We'll see how things unfold with the grant process or whatever. Quentin has been ahead of the curve on every one of those steps, very forward thinking. We'll be able to discuss a little bit more specific things in the future. But I also just kind of want to use to remind the board that we've got a really excellent board out there with the Lapeer Development Corporation, which is a great cross-section of a lot of key stake players from across our community from an economic development perspective, both government and private sector. It's a non-profit, public-private partnership for the benefit of economic development in Lapeer County, and they act as our county's EDC, as our county's economic development commission. And everybody on that board, and Quentin serves on that board as our county administrator. He has a seat, and I served on that board the past 19 years. I'm on that board representing our board. Everybody's got committee assignments, and both of us as well, but Quentin chairs newly formed broadband committee there. And I think that that is going to be a great complementary role to be able to have an administrator controller who not only has his sleeves rolled up and his arms deep in all the work, but is actually able to work directly in that role with our Economic Development Commission, the LDC. And I think it's going to be able to serve great strides in the next year to keep us above the curve. As I think we're going to be at least a half step to a step ahead of all of the other counties as far as preparing and planning and having all of our ducks in a row for how to spend this money. So when we keep doing our on full boards, when we keep doing our pay the bills, and then we also do motions from ARPA committee, and you see all of the individual capital expenditures that we're making, and I've pointed before, that's just a very small percentage of the big pot. You know, we've said that we want to make sure that those dollars stay in Lapeer County and benefit Lapeer County for a long term to come, and doing everything we can due diligence to explore broadband, especially what we've seen unveiled in the past 2 years of COVID with whether it be small business or just individuals having to do work more from home, all the students having to do work remotely, and not having a key tool like that available. You know, it's really incumbent upon us to try and correct that. And again, I just want to give a lot of kudos to Quentin and his staff, because of course we're involved in it as commissioners, as policy directors, but there where the rubber meets the road. It was really impressive to see and hear from consultants that we've been reviewing and talking to, how impressed they are with how far we already are in our due diligence process. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that will reveal itself over the coming months. So I just want to give a shout out, thank you to you and your staff.
That meeting you talked about was heavily around broadband.
And I want to give a little sentiments, and we're very, very blessed to have Quentin. I'm glad we made that decision. I think the county's in good shape having him on board for the long haul. He's out there in front of everybody. He's doing his job today. I haven't seen anybody work any harder than this gentleman, so we definitely have him. That being said, come next year, he's going to have an even tougher job. As of today, I'm putting in my announcement for those who I had a lot of support in the community. I appreciate all the support I gotten, but I am not going to be running next year. I'm going to be moving on with my life as well. I'm going to support people who are going to support these people. That's where my backing will be. But I had to finally get to that. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I had to wait for things to come into fruition. But I am moving on forward in my life at this point. I hope the next person who comes on board appreciates the citizens, works for the citizens. There's a lot of things that the county commissioners can't do. It takes you a while to learn some of the stuff, and the government way is a little different than your normal business way. But pay attention if you get on board to what Quentin's leading, what he's doing in the future, by trying to look at some of these old timers. If you may not like their view today, but some of the policies that this board, we do have ever had that have been very, very conservative. Today, the future is going to start moving forward with all this money that got coming, so hopefully you'll see a nice vibrant county in the future. That's what I'm hoping for. So I have a few other issues that I want to talk about. Because they're all coming to us. The vaccines, having them, they delayed it. I was going to talk about that. 6 months old to 5 years old, they're going to give shots to children for COVID. And if you look at the numbers of the adverse events versus getting the flu or something else, the child had more problems with other things than they'll ever have with COVID. The vaccine still, and you say that's FDA approved. I don't trust our FDA today. I know a lot of people in the medical industry finally believed in the FDA, and they believe them. The CDC have doubts about these people today. We've been lied to for over a year, 2 years now. And this mask stuff is all, as of yesterday, Whitmer says, immediately, no more mask mandate. We didn't have them since June. But as of today, immediately, I don't know how some of the schools are in this area. I don't have children, so I don't know what's going on there, but hopefully they're not being masked. But anybody putting the vaccine in them without knowing what the history of it is, they're still experimenting. FDA is still experimenting, even if they said it's approved, they're experimenting with it. We've seen results of the last vaccine have shown signs of things that have happened over the years that they're unexplainable. Today, you're seeing more and more. I have doctors and nurses today that were all for the vaccine. They were for it. Told me I was wrong. Well, I just had my test for my antibodies the other day. My results are I have 150. 150. One is good. That's got the antibodies. I got 150. None of your business. I'm just telling you that. Our antibodies do work for us. But we have to take care of our own selves and stand up for what's right. And when we question that, it doesn't make you a terrorist. Whether it's the vaccine, whether it's a ballot, whether it's a school board you're offending. As an official, we were told earlier today, we are assigned by God. My Lord Jesus Christ is leading my way. That's why I'm moving on. He's allowing the next person to take on that responsibility. We have to answer to people at all times. We're going to hear what her results are. I want to hear what the state has to say. We have laws, and I was told about laws. We have to have, they got to follow law. I said they do have to follow law. But any law that's not following the Constitution, even though it's a law, because the legislation said it was, if it's not following the Constitution, if you pushed it, it's not a law. It's got to follow the Constitution. And all that is what we have to pay attention to. Everybody start reading their Constitution. Start learning what's right and wrong for them. And quit putting it in the hands of the people up in front. Man will fail you every time. So you have to stand up for yourselves. Encourage you to bring your people to meetings, at all meetings, and ask them questions. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what society is all about. You may always agree with each other. I got 14 brothers and sisters. I promise you, I can't get them all to agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with them. But we love each other. We work with each other. The way this country is going today is dividing each other. You're either here or you're there. You're vaxxed or you're not vaxxed. We need people to take leadership. Do the things that are right for the people at all times. I'd like to see why the county can't make a ruling, just do a paper ballot over. I mean, I understand the machines. I can see their concept. If you're going to use machines, you got to follow these requirements. But then, I think we also need to tell the state we're going to use machines. They got to follow the state requirements that they put on these clerks. Allow them to be investigated by an outside source, not internal. Because there is a lot of questions. Mr. Hamilton was right. Put water sprinklers on people. We had a police chief running for governor right now. He thought he was a good guy, but he didn't stop them from moving our people away from that hobo hole down there, or whatever they call it today. He did not stop them. Please, escort him. They wouldn't let him get closer than 6 feet because they used COVID as their excuse. When it comes to voting, that is a very prestigious position you can do is have that vote. You're allowed to have that. You have the right to have that. And I agree with it. It shouldn't be a convenience. It's become a convenience. You mail them out to everybody and you just mail them back. There are people that should have a drop box because there are some people that have to be out of town or some people that are medical. But that should be it. It shouldn't be because, well, I just don't want to go. And then you really don't care about your country. But we need to look at this seriously in the future because we're being controlled by the government. And tyranny was what Alan, Pete, and myself, we took an oath. Both foreign and domestic. We had a joint lead mentioned earlier about our friends next door. Innocent people, they're still peaceful. I mean, we're not seeing everything. I'm seeing some stuff. Truckers in the streets still got Ottawa blocked off. They're dancing and singing and having a good time. No police, nobody over there. But the threats are all there. But they have certain constitutional rights too. That truckers wasn't just Canada. Wait till you see it come across the country this year, starting the 23rd of this month. And they're going to move right across to DC. And where are you going to be? They're going to say, well, they shouldn't do that. They don't have a constitutional right to protest. They're going to be called terrorists because they're driving their trucks across the country, demanding their freedom. Freedom. This is what you all have the right to have, your freedom, your freedom. Choose what kind of religion you want, whatever you want to do. But they're fighting for freedom. Canada's not fighting just because it's a mask mandate. It started out, they wanted them off because they can't eat warts on their guys because of it. But they're staying strong with their freedom. You're seeing it rise up all over the world. People are tired of the tyranny in these worlds. And it's getting very, very strong and powerful. They're trying to get you to get rid of your religion. They arrested a preacher in Southern Canada. You don't think stuff's happening here in the United States as well? The Vice President of the United States made a fund to get the people in Black Lives Matter protesters out of jail, but they're going to call you a terrorist. We have 36 Americans sitting in Washington, D.C. in the worst condition prison you can get into. And we don't even hear about it. And we're not even standing up for them. And they salute the flag every night at 9 o'clock, paint a flag. But yet we have Black Lives Matter getting out of jail, and they take over police station, county buildings, everything else. So if you agree with that side, you're on the wrong side. America wants us to stand up. Leaders need to stand up. And I appreciate every American to stand up, do their job too. But thank you for your time. That's all I have to say for today.
A few disjointed comments, I guess I'd make my report. One, no committee meetings today. Our bill was held Tuesday, as you report. Michigan Township Association meeting was held Tuesday night. I wondered if there was any report on that meeting.
I was trying to get some things got changed. It ended up being a Zoom, and so when we get more information, we'll get back to it. We have nobody can report on this time. So the only one I know that did attended on Zoom was Brian, and he's out of town. So.
Okay, well, hopefully that had some important topics for us. I guess the topic came up, Teresa, about checking on whether we could change machines. If you could add that to your list of things to research.
Sure, I'll ask. Okay. And
then we get a cost figure too, I
Yes.
suspect, and
Yes.
be part of that.
I'm sure that. Okay.
Another comment related, hopefully our board has shown that we're very willing to listen. We may have different views on what we can do, what we can't do, what our authority is, how we approach things. But I'd like to think over the history of this board that we have listened and will continue to listen. I think it's good that people are concerned, making comments here, and hopefully at the state level, and then, to our national legislators, there definitely need to be some changes. We're getting ourselves into some really hot water in a number of ways. I mean, maybe the only way that's going to change is if people do get very much more involved than they have been. I was going to comment, the county board on the whole, some of you don't come regularly, some of you have been very regular, but those who come regularly, I think can say most of our work is not very political. What we do has a lot to do with finance and programs and services that we're providing to you and all of the residents of our county. It has been for this county a tremendous struggle for several decades as the Michigan economy went down, and then we went through 2008. Our county is among the fourth or fifth lowest supported village county, and that impacts what we can provide in the way of services constantly. We've struggled with that, done our best to try to get the most for what we have. And that will be a continuous struggle. Right now, we are being supported by some very, I think, unwise decisions at the federal level to pump trillions of dollars into our economy. Not only boosting inflation, but it's, in a sense, distorting what we have available at this point to make resources available on the county level. You can ask the health department about that, but other departments too as well. At a point, certainly not too distant, there's going to be a reckoning on that. Money is going to run out. We're already seeing the effects of inflation, which eats away at our budget, just like it eats away at individual family budgets. So that is going to be maintained as a struggle. We're sort of eased off right now, but when it comes back, I'm afraid it's going to get worse, not better. And then I guess the only other related comment, talking about the senior advisory committee, it is an advisory committee. It's not a board in the sense that Community Mental Health has a board with elected representatives who make decisions that refer things on to us. But we do count on that group, and we haven't been able to in the last few years. We do have to count on that group to pick up listening to other seniors, to voice comments and concerns, and then to give advice to both us and the health department, senior services, to do the best, again, with limited resources that we have. The millage is a big part of that. That was, the fact we have that has allowed us to do things way beyond what we were able to do before. I guess that's the end of my comments. Anybody wants to rebuttal me, you're welcome to it at this point. If not, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Support. We're adjourned.
When you make your code, you have the money in that code and then it's like, oh, I have a dollar and something. That would be